Welcome to Legal Meets, a look at legal beyond the law, a podcast by Legaler. On this episode of Legal Meets, we meet Christopher Matthew, a New York barber with a law degree and a penchant for tattoos, fast bikes, and helping the homeless. When he's not cutting hair for celebrities, he's helping businesses that make a social impact. G'day, Chris.
Hey, Stevie, how's it going?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Legal Meets. You're in New York at the moment, and it's getting close to dinner time. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Not a problem, no worries.
So, interesting stories that we actually met over the platform. You're a New York-based attorney, and I think to sum you up in a couple of words, you're all about heart and soul, and you were very kind to, after we first met, to offer us some tickets to a football game over in Seattle that your wife kindly arranged for my family over there, and that was our initial interaction. I think since then I've gotten to know you a little bit better, and it's, like I said, it's a big part of who you are seems to be your generosity and your heart, and I hope the listeners can get a good insight into your story and learn more about you. So thanks for joining us.
Oh man, I appreciate that, and I'm happy to do it.
No worries. So you prefer to be known as a barber with a law degree, other than I guess a lawyer that cuts hair, and you have been working as a barber since the age of 13. Tell me how it all got started, and then how you kind of ended up where you are now.
Yeah. Well, the barbering just kind of got started. A few guys moved into the neighborhood, and they opened up a barbershop, and little by little, they were the guys that around, junior high, high school, people were like, "God, I was at a party with this barber the other night," or they were the guys with new cars and new sneakers. So,
all the cool boys.
I gave it a try, and I figured, I wasn't going to get those things without doing some kind of work, and it kind of stuck. I was able to, one year, I think I had a haircut every day for the entire year because I was just practicing on myself. And it just kind of stuck, and I did it through high school, did it through college, and then when I decided to go to law school, it was still the steady source of income, so I continued to work in the barbershop.
So that helped you along your way through, I guess, obtaining your law degree?
Big time. When things got a little bit tight, I knew I could always go do a
fallback
and be able to afford dinner at least.
Nice one. And so how did you actually, I guess, make the step from barber to wanting to go and get your law degree? What was the drive there, and how did it all unfold?
It wasn't any like ground shattering moment. It was after college, I continued working in the barbershop, and I realized that the jobs in business and in marketing that I was being offered and that some of these recruiters were bringing to the table were not really what I wanted to do. So I started just kind of getting little like inklings from places, and I wanted to help people. I saw some of these international lawyers and some of these civil rights lawyers and, some of these social impact lawyers doing things that I thought I'd be good at and I want to do. So I decided to give it a try. I wasn't even sure I was going to go to law school, but I figured I'd sit down and take the test.
Wow. Okay. And then here you are now. So New York attorney. So when you're not, I guess, wearing your lawyer's hat, you're basically running your business called Dillingers Barber Suite and Shave Parlor in Garden City in New York. Tell me a little bit, but how did that all get started, and what's Dillingers all about?
It was kind of a natural progression and still fitting in my personality. I don't really have a lot of time to run a full-scale barbershop, so I opened a private suite by appointment only. It's kind of pretty luxury-based. Everyone books through an app through my website, and 3 days a week I kind of get to use more of my creative side and kind of turn off the drafting and the heavy lifting, I guess. And just get there and interact with people and kind of get out there in the world. and it also brings in, I take a decent portion of the income to kind of support some of the other missions that I do. So kind of works in both ways, to kind of give me a break and also allow me to do what I want to do and forward the missions.
Great. So, I mean, I hope you don't mind me asking you this question, but there's a very touching story behind the Dillinger name. And you've also got, I guess, a tattoo today that bears the name there as well. So what was the story behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to own something with that name. One of my best friend, he was pretty much my brother, passed away. We're going on almost 15 years. Next year, I think it'll be 15 years. We were riding motorcycles. It was actually the first day that I brought mine home, and just nothing crazy, just on a side block, and he just kind of lost control a little bit and passed away. So I've done as much as I think I can to just try to keep him alive and keep his memory, because he was a really powerful and he was a really good person, and a lot of people looked up to him. So we do little things like football games and different things of that nature. But when I got the chance to use it in my shop, I think it was the perfect opportunity, and it also fits with the theme of the shop. This old, like, 1920s, 1930s industrial prohibition type era, as far as just the decor.
Right, so it's got that speakeasy kind of feel.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so I've got to ask, I mean, I'm sure people watching at home now have noticed you're a lawyer with tattoos. Very rare. And apparently your wife hates them. And between the barber salon, helping the homeless, I guess, like, you're doing your best to dispel every preconception of a lawyer. What kind of reaction do you get from clients when they kind of come across the tattoos?
Um, it's been pretty positive. I guess because of the space that I'm in, it actually kind of puts my clients at ease. A lot of them are young entrepreneurs. A lot of them are building things from a garage or their, grandmother's basement, or, you got tech people and coders and, a lot of creative types that they're not fully understood when they walk into,
Right.
downtown law
It's
firm.
disarming for them, right? You can kind of connect, and like you said, that veil of the lawyer that they're probably intimidated by sometimes, it kind of falls away.
Exactly. And, I joke, but I tend to show up to the barbershop very much, more dressed, I guess, than I do.
Maybe for a lawyer. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll wear a, vest and a tie
Yeah,
to the
very,
bar
very dapper. Yeah.
to a client meeting.
Yeah, like you're almost taking a trip back in time when you step into the barber salon, right? It's kind of like a bit of old world charm, and then you kind of got the modern tech kind of lawyer on the other side, kind of bipolar.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, any cool stories behind the artwork? And you mentioned that you had the Dillinger one, and then any other cool stories behind some of the artwork you've had?
Yeah, I mean, nothing in particular. A lot of it is just kind of tells a bit of a story of different eras of my life, and also just people who are, really important. People who have passed, and just kind of keeping them close and just keeping their memories.
Right.
And just, I try to give myself reminders of where I've been and what those things have meant to me. So, one of my favorites is the U, since I went to University of Miami Law.
That's a big part of your life, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the type of school that kind of sticks with you, and you're really happy to be a part of. So, that was one that.
Oh, that's awesome. So you haven't ventured out and gotten your wife's name yet to kind of win her over and bring her on board with the whole tattoo thing?
No, I don't even know that would bring her on board. I think that might freak
That might be
her out.
worse, right? Okay. It's meant to be bad luck or something, but just thought I'd ask. No worries. So, in the salon chair, you've had some notable clients, some celebrities, Anthony Penny Hardaway for the basketball fans, Lennox Lewis, the world champion boxer heavyweight, and even The Rock. Is there any, kind of notable stories, or who was the most memorable out of the guys that sat in the chair?
Um, I would have to say Penny Hardaway was one of my favorite guys to cut because he came pretty regularly when he was living in Miami, and just a really down to earth guy. And it was great to talk basketball with him because he was part of the old era, and then but still played into the new.
Yeah, he was
So
like
he
that bridge, wasn't he? He was that kind of
yeah,
really
so
modern
he
kind
was
of, yeah.
a little bit more physical and hand check, and then turn around and had to play within the new rules. So he was a great guy to have. But I always say this to people: I really don't care about the stature of the client. I've actually walked away from a lot of the personal barbering, and more so just like the character and the person. I like the guys who come in every week because I feel like we kind of grow together, even though we may only see each other there and we're not friends outside of there. I know that it's, the next time I see you, you're going to be married, or I know the next time I see you, your child's going to be born. And that's what we pick up, 2 weeks, a month later, whenever it is. So that's the cool part of being in there.
Yeah, it must be really rewarding having all those personal connections and again, hearing the tales of other people's lives unfolding and keeping tabs, and reconnecting. I hope, when I'm in New York, I can step into the chair and I'm not sure if I'm a good customer from the top, but maybe we could do some beard grooming.
Yeah.
So, speaking of grooming, a couple of years ago, you started an initiative called Groom, which stands for Giving Remains Our Only Mission. And this is where yourself and other barbers cut hair of the homeless and, in the homeless shelters for those in need. So, what's the reaction you get when, you get these guys that are really down on their luck and had a really tough life? What's the reaction that you get from them when they kind of, I guess, get a clean, fresh shave and a haircut and come out, feeling like somebody else? What's the reaction that you get?
Yeah. I mean, the reaction is largely almost transformative. And, I'm not naive enough to believe that just a haircut, is going to change their entire situation. But, a lot of these guys are stigmatized as being whatever. We believe that they're lazy or they should just get a job. And a lot of us are a couple student loans away from being right in that position, and we all have a story. And one of the most interesting things I heard from one of the guys I see regularly and actually waits on me is that he said when he leaves the shelter and goes out to get a bite to eat or goes to kind of hang out, nobody knows where he came from or where he's going home to because he got himself a clean haircut, his beard is groomed, and he feels good about himself. And he's just another person in New York City walking along. So that was really telling. That kind of sums up what it's all about. Is just that transformative feeling. Like I could step out and if they worked and they have a few dollars, can go get a bite to eat and not feel like you know they have the weight of all those stigmas and everything that's going on behind them.
It can
Nobody
be,
knows.
it can be just a very little powerful shift in the disposition that can actually put them on the right path, or just give them, I guess, a sense of a life they once knew, and give them a more motivation, I guess, to kind of, again, feel themselves again.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true.
Well, it sounds like an amazing project, and as part of that, I think your wife went and secretly entered you into a competition run by Delta and American Express, which is the Give Back project, and you actually won. So how did that all unfold?
That was a cool experience, and it's just like snowballed into other things. So we did a shoot with Delta. This was about a year ago now, and really they just wanted to give a gift for the giving um, that was already done. But my wife and I talked about it, and we didn't really feel like we needed anything. We didn't need a trip. We didn't need any material things. So they just gave money towards the mission. And that was a big help. It's allowed me to, start a few things. It's allowed me to be part of a program I was in with Wharton and UPenn for social enterprises. I just did another video with Canon the other day. So it's really started the whole getting the story out there. And that's what's been, the most impactful, I think.
Well, it seems like there's no end to the philanthropy that you, I guess, are investing into the world and giving to people. Is it a case that as part of that project and I guess the proceeds that you're building an RV to both go around and actually give the homeless, I guess, the grooming as well, but then also trying to start a school where you can actually help educate and also basically give training to the less fortunate, so they can then go and actually have a more lasting kind of impact and feel good about themselves and then go on to a vocation. So is that something that's happening as part of that?
Yeah, so the RV is not really gonna happen.
All right.
I took it to a guy to kind of fix it up and customize it, and by the end of the meeting there, because it broke down on the way and we had to drag it,
They have a hard life.
for free. And that's what they were looking for, a fixer upper, and they were just like, just tow this thing out of here. So
are you kidding? Okay.
But that's fine because we see a lot more people at the shelters. The RV was kind of the spark for the idea that, like, let's start these partnerships. But the second part of it is really where it's at. It's about the sustainability aspect and the impact aspect of actually teaching the trade of barbering, because it's pretty low barrier to entry, and it allows you to get out there and kind of fix some of the economic issues right away. Somebody who's struggling with work can get a job and be trained within a couple of months at least. It takes years to really get to that point where you're comfortable, but it's something that can be done, and you don't need much. So that's what I've been trying to work with some people, more so organizations whose missions who has the mission to teach a trade, or has some of the backing to do so, and kind of set up a barber school that would either have funds set aside to get some of these guys from the shelter to be part of it, or be exclusively offered within the Department of Homelessness. So
That's so cool. It's an amazing thing that you're doing. So I hope it all comes together nicely and you actually get the support that you need from the organization. So well done, man. So I guess like you said, the barber job might be safe in a little while, but the lawyer one might be replaced by robots. We had Andrew Arruda from Ross on the first episode of Legal Meets, and there's some interesting things happening there. But again, let's not forget you also run a law firm, and the practice is called the Matthew Firm. You're focused on impact companies, social entrepreneurs, and startups that are basically trying to change the world. I saw a quote actually, it's quite bold on your website that says "Strategic Business Counsel for the Purpose Junkie." So I've seen that Purpose Junkie emblazoned in a few places on your hat, on your shirt. Tell us exactly what is a Purpose Junkie in by your definition, and how are you helping them along their journey?
Yeah, Purpose Junkies is just something that kind of came to me and summed up really the kind of people that I like to be around. And it's not always philanthropic, but it's just what gets you up in the morning, and what is it that you really, really can't wait to get to. And for some people that's the gym, for some people that's cooking, for some people that's their children, so it's not all about just charity or philanthropic work, but it's just about what you really want to do. And it's not always easy to find exactly what you're built to do. But I realized that before I kind of had an idea, at least, of which way I wanted to go, things felt a bit empty, on the side of, I guess, the client that I guess, target or work with the most, they tend to be, or the client I'd like to work with more is the social enterprise, the impact-driven business. I don't always get to work with the clients that I want to because, you know, you have a double and triple bottom line and budgeting is tough. But yeah, in an ideal world, I would like to continue to, I would like every business to have some sort of mission attached to it. And I would like to have some hand in helping them get further along.
That's awesome. Well, there is a growing trend. I guess I saw a stat the other day from Deloitte's that I think it's over 65% of millennials actually look for a company now with a social purpose, a mission, before they look at, you know, the actual role of the job. So it seems there's a huge, I guess, shift in consciousness. You know, technology, the internet's really helping people get educated. There's platforms popping up to, you know, make people aware. There's you know, change.org. There's all kinds of amazing platforms where like-minded people are getting together. So why do you think this shift has happened? I mean, you know, you want to obviously service a lot of clients that have that element of that mindset and that consciousness. Why do you think it's happening now? Why do you think that shift is happening, and why is it important for businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely noticed a trend that way, and I think there's probably a few different reasons why. One of those reasons is, once again, feeling connected to something and recognizing that there's a lot of damage that has been done. And I don't think the ecosystem, meaning not just environmentally, but just the world, is equipped to just kind of figure itself out, you know? So, and the old ways haven't really worked because there's so much red tape. And, you know, I came out of law school trying to work in not-for-profits and do a lot of that kind of work. And every time you had a shot to do some impact work, your budget ran out, or your grant ran out, or you didn't have the time or capacity to do the full job, you know? And so I think people have realized that the old way is not working. And if you can build a business that does well enough for yourself and also can impact, I think, you know, it's a win-win. And then I also think there's stories that come along with that. People who tend to dive into these things tend to have a story, and it's not the same old corporate, you know, bylines that everyone's been getting for the last, you know, X amount of years, where it's just advertising shouting at you. It's now, you know, stories and in context.
Well, it seems like there's a lot more transparency, and people are interacting a lot more closely with their, you know, whether it's a corporation, the companies, their lawyer. They really, there's nowhere to run and hide, and I think that's a big part of it. It's that once upon a time, and Seth Godin used to say, I think, you know, all marketers are liars. Now it's like all marketers tell the truth, because that's so much more valuable, right? So I think people can connect with that substance. So and again, I think your law firm does that, right? So you're the face of it. You're doing it. You're the real deal. You're out there living kind of what you're preaching through the company. So that's really cool. So on just on that, then, you know, I saw another quote on the website that said, "Let's change our world together, starting with the way legal gets done." And again, a lot of the startups you're dealing with, they're going to be on their own crazy path and mission. But how do you, as a lawyer, I guess, guide them towards? Is there an opportunity to guide them towards some, when they're making critical decisions or legal decisions, or kind of, is there an opportunity for you to kind of guide or inject with your social impact kind of mindset or stance? Does that happen quite often?
Yeah, that's really my end goal these days. After being part of Social Impact House with UPenn and Wharton, I realized that there were so many people doing really cool things, but it was fragmented. So people were all over the place and maybe down the block from each other, and they were doing complementary missions or ventures. And I realized that I would, rather than have a bunch of clients that hire me to just handle their legal, I'd rather kind of be a hub and a knowledge base and a connector through the lens of legal. So I've gotten a chance to just kind of take phone calls, and it's not always profitable, but or use some sort of technology and kind of get on Slack or get on some kind of platform and just kind of answer some questions and guide. Because I realized a lot of these people were so bent, and most entrepreneurs are bent on getting their venture off the ground, that they don't believe they have anything to protect. So legal goes to the back burner. So if I can help even in a DIY capacity, I want to try to do that.
Yes, as long as they have that access to the information, it's a good starting point that they can be educated about actually what they need to do, because that's part of the stumbling block, isn't it? Actually knowing that you need to take action and be able to do something. Yeah. So on that note, what advice would you give someone, whether it's a startup or any kind of business tomorrow opening their doors? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I would love every new business, new startup to speak to an attorney in the beginning, even if it was just paying for an hour of their time. I mean, obviously look for somebody who kind of understands your space and what you're doing, but just the time will pay dividends, even if you don't retain them, even if you don't have them do work for you right away. It'll at least give you a roadmap, and I think, part of me saying changing the way legal gets done is a lot of times you have these 15-minute consults, and the attorney is trying to be as vague as possible because they want you to hire them because you don't understand what's going on.
Right.
And the potential client is trying to pump you for as much information, because they're budgeting and they're like, I need to know how much legal I can afford, so whatever I can get that I can do myself, I'm willing to do. And you really just get like a fear factor of like, can I scare you enough to hire me? And they're like, can I get enough information to get through another week of entrepreneurship? And I don't think anybody wins in that situation, because chances are the attorney doesn't get hired and the entrepreneur is out there kind of figuring it out on their own.
Yeah, there's I guess a huge shift away from the hourly billing model and shifting towards fixed fee, and like I think a good summary of what you just said, describing the lawyer-client relationship. It's becoming more about the value that's delivered, right? So do you, in that sense, open up your time differently? Do you kind of offer a more of an open door policy to try and actually work out what their problems are? It sounds like what you're describing is the startups kind of walking in the dark to their legal issues, and you just want to shine the light so they can actually see what's ahead, instead of kind of them bumping into something and then going, hey, I need your help, and it's almost too late.
Yeah, that's pretty much a good way to sum it up. And yeah, I try to do the flat fee. I think it's still kind of a new concept, and you can't plan for everything, and but it works. It at least gives people kind of a ceiling, at least for what they need to get done. And sometimes I'm sure plenty of lawyers have it's kind of like shot themselves in the foot by setting that ceiling too low. But for the right clients, and I think you don't feel too bad about it, and you keep putting it out there, putting that good stuff out there, it'll come back.
Awesome. So Chris, we live in, I guess, an age where technology can pretty much let you do anything. Nothing's impossible, and social entrepreneurship is on the rise, and it's having the greatest impact it's ever had, from crowdfunding platforms to impact investing VCs, people pouring buckets of ice on their head on Instagram, raising money for charity. It all helps. So what kind of, you got a young girl, you got a young daughter, and what kind of world do you want to see her growing up in? Because a lot of what you're doing, a lot of the purpose junkie missions, creating a better world. So what kind of world do you want to see her growing up in?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? There's an E.B. White quote that kind of says, just to summarize, like, he's torn between getting up and changing the world and getting up and enjoying the world, and it kind of makes it hard to plan the day. Um, and that's kind of
is that you in the
how
mornings?
uh,
Is that you in the morning?
yeah, I mean, I think it's probably 85-15, but some days I'd like to take my daughter and my wife and just go get an eco farm in Costa Rica or Australia or something, and just kind of, you know, there's problems there too, but they're not our problems, right? At least not right now while we're foreigners in their land. But most days I wake up and I just want to move the needle forward just a little bit. And I kind of have to counter steer against trying to do too much, because then you get nothing done. But ideally, I would like to see um, moving the needle forward and thinking more as a futurist, like not necessarily being inundated with solving problems that are already here, but solving problems before they actually happen. So ideally, that's the world. I mean, it's coming up pretty quickly. She's 2, but it seems like it's moving at warp speed.
It's changing very
Uh,
fast, yeah.
but that's the world that I'd like to see her inherit, where people like her and people that are out there that have a skill are using it in the smallest way, even in small ways, to just move the needle forward and kind of impact things before they happen, versus always trying to counter steer against all the mess that we've already caused.
Yeah, it sounds like I guess the plane, is going down. Do you put on your oxygen mask first so you can help everyone else? Because you have to kind of be able to, to be conscious, and it's a juggling act of the social element and also the commercial element always coming together. And I think you hit it on the head when you said that technology is helping. The old model was a bit rickety. It didn't allow people to help so much, but now I think technology is connecting resources to better places. So there's better opportunities for things to happen. Look, your law firm and the whole Purpose Junkie missions that you're on sound amazing, and I think the example that you're leaving and leading for both your daughter and people around you, and hopefully people listening today is what it's all about, because that's more valuable than telling someone about what they should do or how they can do it. Is actually just seeing the positive impact and really living it. So I've got to say kudos. It's amazing to hear your story. Chris, before we head off and say goodbye, we have a few parting shots on LegalMeets. Android, iOS, or Windows?
iOS.
You're an iOS guy. All
Yeah.
right, and apart from your actual phone, what's the one bit of technology that you can't live without?
I mean, I've
Most
been
people just say their phone, so
yeah, I've been trying to kind of actually steer against technology, but I would have to say, my MacBook Air. I book my appointments online.
your
Go
whole
to the
life's in
barber,
there, yeah.
a ton of legal work is, the firm I do a lot of work for is, not based in New York anymore. So I would have to say MacBook Air.
Nice one. So is there any daily rituals or something that you do every day that keeps you sane? Any habits or hobbies that help you along the way?
No, I mean, a lot of coffee every day. I do love it. But of late, I've been running a bit, which I always hated, because I felt like every sport you ever play, running is the punishment. If you mess up, you
That's
go run.
true. I
So
never thought of it that way, but that's true.
why would I do it for fun? But I read Shoe Dog, which is the story of Nike, and a lot of their, they recount all these, like, runs in between, trying to get this business off the ground and fighting to make, Nike a viable enterprise. And I found myself running, listening to the book. So a little bit meta
It's
there, but
self-fulfilling. Yeah, it was like Inception.
yeah, yeah. So I kind of pledged to keep it up. Been doing it for a couple of weeks, and it's kind of like where I get some thinking done and get to knock out some audio books.
Yeah, awesome. Good way
So
to
that's
kill a few birds.
yeah.
Oh, nice one. Well, where can people find you if anyone's, I guess, in the US or in New York or thinking about going there? How do they connect? Obviously, they can look up Dillingers online, but what's the website to find your law firm?
The law firm is thematthewfirm.com. And all the information's there. And yeah, Dillingers is dillingersbarbersuite.com.
All right, awesome. Hopefully, next time I'm in the neighborhood, I can stop by and see you in person and have a whiskey in the salon.
Yeah. Whiskey and espresso.
Nice one. I better let you get back to. I think it's dinner time over in New York. I'm over here in Sydney still. It's been a pleasure to chat and hear your story. I think it's one of the most incredible, stories, especially in the legal realm. And this is part of why we're doing Legal Meets, is to actually connect with people like yourselves. And I'm not a lawyer myself, and the more time I spend in the industry and getting to know people, there's some really cool stories out there. And I think you've got an incredible story and doing some incredible things. So thanks for joining us and giving up your time.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate you having me, and I look forward to seeing where this goes. I think you guys got something.
All the best, Chris. Have a good evening. Thanks again.
Have a good one.
See you. Bye.